taketh, I should say, and giveth back in this instance. But yeah, they're pulling back some here today off that extreme spike up in the overnight session. And then I just wanted to point out here as we take a look at, well, the daily time frame shows that this one is just now trying to break out of this range, but it's got some hurdles. It's got a bit of a grind lower that we've been on to the downside here, and still just kind of filling the gap. There's some levels up above 56. We're talking 58, 60. I mean, you've got the gap from April, May of earlier this year. So certainly something to keep an eye on. But yeah, I mean, again, another instance where trying to get something going off a key lower level and while trying to give something for investors, something to get excited about here.
Right. Thankfully, it's not as low as it was in the past. And I think that volatility, you painted it beautifully there, Ben. Joe, I mean, Ben was pointing out some really key levels that he's watching. Which ones really grabbed your attention most? And how are you formulating your trade for Intel?
Yeah, well, first I would say if people were buying Intel because they want to own this IPO, I would say wait for that IPO to come out and buy that instead, because I think when that happens, people are just going to sell Intel. But for me, looking at the gap, 49.50 would be a spot where I'd consider dipping my toes in, maybe around 50 where that where the 50-day moving average happens to be. So something along that, a pullback, would be, for me, would be where I'd like to get in. But like I said, there's other chip names that I want to own more, so I might just pass.
Okay. So when we talk about this, obviously the Mobileye is the big story today. And when you look at the trade there, Ben, your thoughts?
Well, I want to pull up a weekly time frame just to kind of distance ourselves a little bit from some of the range that we're in right now, and the bid that we talked about, how and kind of the dizzying aspect or feeling that investors are seeing when they wake up and see Intel up 9%. It's come off from those highs, got up again around 55 earlier, but look at the move up, the range that we're in that we identified a minute ago in terms of the 70 area, we'll call it down to 42, 45. So I'm actually looking at a little bit lower than what Joe was talking about. I'd like to see this level tested. Now, I think if we gain momentum through the middle of this range, it's very bullish. Again, as I mentioned before, this is what investors want to see as this bid coming into play and continue here. That opens up the door for retest of 70. But we talked about some of the hurdles earlier on the way up that this one has to overcome. Yeah, it's got the momentum here right now off of 50, but you've got 70, 75. There's just, again, a lot of headwinds still to come here. But maybe we could get a little bit of a rally in this one, a late end of the year type rally, and something to watch here. Again, mentioned before, it's coming off a key level.
Okay, Joe, final thought on the trade on Intel, and then I want to get to Ethereum. Last thought here, Joe?
No, I like that idea. Again, I think the weakness today, like we're talking about, is kind of problematic. If it were to make a new high, that'd be a positive result for me. I'd be more interested in the name. In general, I think semis will do well. So I think it'll have some support around that 50 area. So that'd be an area where I'd look to get in and maybe even sell a put around the D's 50, Jan 50 area. Okay.
Now, I'm not going to say I saved the best for last, but I saved the newest hot topic for last, I guess, and that would be Ethereum. Joe, your thoughts here?
Yeah, so in the crypto world, everybody knows about it. Everyone knows of Bitcoin being the store of value or the digital store of value. And people are starting to catch on to Ethereum. I think more and more people are aware of it. I've been following it for some time. And for me, it just happens to be a better blockchain technology. It's more flexible. It has more uses than Bitcoin. And they're still evolving, still emerging. But just looking at this year, Ethereum versus Bitcoin, Bitcoin's had a fantastic year. Everybody knows about that. It's up 78%. That's nothing to frown about. But Ethereum's up almost 500% this year. So people are really catching on to it. And it's really starting to catch up to Bitcoin. And, there's potential for, us 10 years looking back at Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And it could be, the Betamax versus VHS story, or it just could be that, the second comer happened to be able to look at the initial blockchain technology, said, oh, I can improve that. And that could be the thing that we all use later on. So I think there's potential there. And personally, I like Ethereum. So that's my spiel.
Yeah, and I have to say, Ben, I'm sure you've heard others like Joe talking in this way about it just being just more useful and a better way to do this. Ben?
Certainly as volatile, that's for sure. And I always say live by the sword, die by the sword in terms of these cryptocurrencies, the futures. I like the idea of the micro contract, the access point there where, again, you have a little bit less tick per contract basis, a little less margin, so you can kind of get your toe wet and get the experience of trading cryptocurrencies without all of the risk on a per tick contract basis. So again, there's still unlimited amount of risk that's out there. But what I'm looking at right now is again this move off 3,900. This is the hourly time frame that we have here in ETH /ETH, the futures. You can see we're up by about 4 1/3%. We just recently bottomed out just below 4,000, but I oftentimes look about not only for a migration of value and that trend that we always talk about and look for, Nicole, but also the amount of time that a product spends at a current level. Like, for example, we were just talking about Intel and the run-up and how it dizzied investors and how they were unable to hold on to those gains. Well, it spent very little time up there. Simply put, Intel did at that 9% gain. You could see we spent very little time down this 3,900 level. It was a test of the lows that we saw throughout November. Quick look at where things stand in terms of the hourly time frame. You can see again that range that we are in November, the retest of the lows, and now we always talk about how once you get straight to the middle of a range, an area of value, you offer up a door to be open for a retest of the upper extreme. That would be 4,900. So investors want to see this continue, this bid through 4,500 with strength and momentum to the upside. And just quickly, a look at the daily time frame shows. Actually, I want to look at two charts here real quick. You just see again the short-lived dips that have been at play here, and just don't spend a lot of time to the downside. And Joe was talking about Bitcoin versus Ethereum. You can see how Bitcoin's come off significantly. I've got it on the left here off the 69,000 level, but look at how Ethereum on the right is held up fairly well. They're up 4% as we speak right now. So yeah, I like watching crypto and the volatility that comes into play, and certainly not my flavor of choice in terms of a trade, but I know that a lot of people do like to. So, and as students of price, these oftentimes provide very well-defined trends for us to study and learn from.
Yeah, and I think this side by side really shows the difference, Joe. How when you look at the Bitcoin sell-off, right? That's extreme versus the Ethereum sell-off. Tell me more about your trade, Joe.
Yeah, well, switching crypto into Ether is one, or just being a pairs trade, short Bitcoin, long Ethereum. I think I like that too. Just watching the next year. I think there's more potential upside for Ether than there is Bitcoin. And again, this is Ben talking about how this is volatile. Yes, we should all understand this is very volatile. This should be very carefully watched. Crypto, to me, Bitcoin and Ethereum specifically, are a very big risk-on indicator. So we have a day like today and yesterday, we saw a risk-on in equities. Same thing we're seeing in Bitcoin, and it would be just as an indicator, it would be a very bad sign for the market to me if you were to see crypto have a big correction. So that could be a leading indicator for when people need cash, they're going to sell their crypto first. Then they're going to sell their high-priced equities second, and then turn to value last. So that's the risk-on, risk-off aspect to it. When we're in a risk-on environment, I think we will be until the end of the year. I think crypto will do well.
Okay, thank you very, very much, both of you. Nice to see you. Great big three today. Ben Lichtenstein and Joe Tugay, Rational Equity Armor Fund. Thank you. Good luck there. Disney, Intel, and Ethereum. Coming up next, we're ready to spotlight Vacasa. You ready for a vacation? The vacation home rental platform reached its SPAC. It's all done. The merger, the CEO will join us next to talk about going public, trading 360 returns